and Some Labels. Two Moms and Some Labels is a podcast for parents and caregivers caring for a child with a disability to come together to network, commune, and to just gain ideas on how to persevere through challenging times. My name is Brittany, and today I have a special guest with me. And what we're going to talk about today is just motherhood and being an entrepreneur, and especially having a child with special needs with different medical complexities, that we have to give our attention to, and trying to juggle the work life also, and how we can overcome these obstacles and still be able to win in the end, and be able to do things that we still strive or dream to do with our lives, with our careers. And so I am going to let my guest take it away.
Okay. Hello, my name is Sade Mack, and I am the founder and owner of Virtual Elite Assistants. And I have a long journey of how I even got into entrepreneurship. But just to introduce myself, like I said, I'm Sade, and I am a mom. I'm a wife. I have two boys, a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old. Actually, he just turned 4, so I have to get used to saying that. Within the last week, he just turned 4. So now I have a 4-year-old, and he is autistic and he is nonverbal. And so he was diagnosed in 2021. And really prior to that journey, it was us just kind of being curious as to what was going on, because a lot of the milestones that our oldest son met, Elijah was really, really delayed in those. And so going to those doctor's visits, filling out those forms that tell you to check all those little boxes of what your child is doing, I noticed that I wasn't checking as many boxes for Elijah as I did with Christian. And so, a lot of the times I feel like when you're going through that journey, and it really depends on the doctor that you have, because at the time we were seeing the nurse practitioner. We had been seeing, physician assistant. I'm sorry. We had been seeing the physician assistant. And so during that time, she had been telling us, okay, well, let's just give it some more time. Some kids are a little bit more delayed. And I was okay with that because I didn't want to put a label on my baby. So we just progressively gave it more time. And then probably about a year and a half, we met with the actual primary physician that we hadn't met with during that time. We may have seen him earlier on when Elijah was first born, but we hadn't continuously saw him. We started seeing the physician assistant. And so when we met with the primary care physician, Elijah was making a lot of noise that day because he did a lot of screaming, which is a sign of autism. And he did a lot of babbling. And obviously at a year and a half, he should have been saying some words, and he wasn't. And so that was his way of kind of being, voicing his voice and having those like phonetic sounds where he would just kind of scream, and, that was his way of talking with us. And so the primary care physician comes in the office and he says, "Oh, you know what that sound is, right?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "That's a sign of autism." And it wasn't so much that he said that because I already had those concerns from prior appointments, but it was the way that he said it to me, like, "Oh, your child has strep throat," or an ear infection. And I just felt like it wasn't any compassion in it, because I'm sitting there trying not to bawl my eyes out in front of him. And I just felt like at that moment, everything was a blur. So he ended up referring us to a neurodevelopmentalist. And she was very compassionate. She let me know, that after all the testing and things that were done and the long waiting period that we had to go through, she finally did diagnose him with autism. And obviously we knew that he was nonverbal at that time, but we were going to just give him more time to kind of see if maybe through therapy, speech therapy, if he would start to develop some of those words. And right now at 4, he will say ma or baby. Baby is his favorite word, and I think that's because he loves Baby Shark. So he'll say baby a lot. And so that's pretty much where he is right now with his language. But he's been in speech therapy since that time. He's been in OT. And I'm very thankful for the specialist who didn't want to put a label on him. She said, okay, this is what he's diagnosed with, but we're not going to categorize him as anything. We're going to allow Elijah to be Elijah, because all kids are different. So even though he may have these special circumstances or these delays, we're not going to handicap him in any kind of way. We're going to just let him be a normal kid. We're going to give him the help that he needs, and we're just going to allow time to tell exactly what we're going to be dealing with, because what he's dealing with at a year and a half isn't what he's dealing with now at 4. He has had some progression, and what he's dealing with at 4 may not be what he's dealing with at 10 or 14 or 18. And so she didn't want to put, fear into me of telling me the worst case scenarios of what I may be dealing with later on down the line. She kind of just wanted me to be hopeful that Elijah will do what Elijah can do, and God would take care of the rest. And so I feel like a lot of times when you have parents with special needs kids, it really depends on the doctor, because I've heard a lot of stories where doctors never address any of the delays. So even though I wasn't happy with the way that the doctor told me that he thought Elijah was autistic, I felt like it was not compassionate at all. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like he just ripped off the Band-Aid, and maybe he didn't think I was bothered with him saying it like that, but I was. And I think a lot of the times when you have, doctors, they won't address the delays. Mm-hmm. So I am grateful that he did it and that he did refer us out, because it changed my life so dramatically. I was working in a doctor's office. I've been a healthcare professional for over 13 years. I've done a lot of different jobs. And at this time, I was working in a doctor's office, and I was Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I would drop Elijah off at daycare, drop my other child off, and then I would just go back and forth. And that was pretty much our routine. That's what we did every single day, unless it was a holiday. And I never thought beyond that point. And, a lot of the times throughout the years, even before Elijah was born, I always felt that mom guilt that we feel about working and leaving our kids and feeling like, God, I spend more time here than I actually do with my own family. And so I feel like a lot of the times we're like, well, I got to pay my rent, I got to pay my mortgage, I got to pay my cell phone bill, card, whatever. We have to work to survive. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we put that above everything else. But I believe God has a way sometimes of making you have a reality check. And my baby was my reality check for me. Yeah. Because I had to come to a place where I either chose my child or I chose to pay my bills. And so for me, I had to decide that my child was more important. I was not going to pull him out of therapy to come to work. Yeah. That just was not an option for me. And at the time, I was on FMLA to take him to therapy. But going to work for 4 hours a day, cross town, coming back to get him, having that added stress of needing to be there because we were short-staffed, or, my boss needed help and for me to be there. And it was just becoming too stressful for me. I went through mental struggles, had a nervous breakdown from the amount of stress that was on me from that job. And I just thought, I cannot take this anymore. I'm about to lose my mind. And I talked to my husband about it, and we just made a decision for me to transition to home. And so since 2021, I've been somewhat of a stay-at-home mom. I've done like some odd things here and there, trying to make some side money and, make some income, working a part-time job, those type of things. But I really, really made a decision to step into entrepreneurship. And it's because of my baby. Mm-hmm. And I'm so grateful that, he was brought into my life, because it has connected me with so many wonderful mothers who are on this journey like yourself, Brittany. And, it's been such a blessing for me. And, on this journey, I've learned definitely to trust God in the uncertain things, because not only is this journey of entrepreneurship uncertain, but my baby, I don't know what the future holds for him. I've heard so many wonderful things about children with autism who progress beyond what you ever thought they would be. I see so many stories where it's like, somebody went on and started a business who was autistic, or, went on and wrote a book or anything. So it's like, I don't want to put a label on him, but I don't know what his future holds. And that is scary. And I think when you have children, you always think, oh, when they come into this world, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that,
Right.
get married, they're gonna have kids. And to be a parent now where you don't know if your child will ever do that, or if you don't know what'll happen to them when you're gone, that is a scary thought. And so for me, I want to make sure that he gets all of the help that he needs. I want to make sure that I am present and that I'm able to provide for him the way that he needs to be provided for both of my children. And so that really led me into starting my business. And
And
so
I was going to say too, saying that you had to make the choice, between your child and your job, like it's just so crazy how life just throws curveballs at us. And as mothers, we just find the strength from somewhere, to be like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. It's going to work out somehow, some way. And, just trying to do what's best for our kids. And I can relate to you because I was working at a job. I was on FMLA, taking my child to therapy and, leaving for 2 hours, coming back and forth to work. And even though I had the FMLA, I was feeling like, okay, even though you said I got FMLA, I still feel like my job is still like on the line, and you're still trying to find some kind of reason to fire me or whatever for me to get laid off because I have this FMLA and I'm always gone because my child has all these appointments. And, you want somebody that is more reliable, in the position. And so that does get really stressful, and it's just not worth all of that, especially when you already are dealing with, so much with your child. And, I was on a totally different journey, in which you were too. And then, you have this child that has needs, special needs. And it's just like, I'm so glad, like you said, like this happened to me, because I would not be where I'm at. I would not be the person that I am, like the things that I'm able to get through. And just even looking at my child and seeing how strong like our children are and how much they go through. And they like have no complaints about it. They just smile and they go about their life like they don't really know what's going on, but just being with their family, it makes them happy. And so I'm just glad that, like my child is my blessing in disguise too, because I just, did a total 360, and life is just different, but I'm on a new path. And I think this is the path that I was meant to be on, just like you. And then, just even going back to like the doctors and even the daycare. And I'm always, trying to advocate for our underserved community also. And just as an African American mother, with a child with a disability, I feel like our community is underserved. A lot of us feel like, we don't want that label on our child. We don't want people to know that they, have a disability or what have you. And we are more, like shameful and resentful about it. And it really holds us back, or really our children, from being able to be great, to be able to do things that, even though they gave them this label, that does mean that they're going to be, what that label is.
Exactly.
Because we're not reaching out to get the proper assistance and care that our children really need. And just like you had went to the doctor was just like, wait, or even just as parents, we're like, okay, all right, next week they're going to start rolling, or in a month where maybe they might start sitting up. Or, I was like that with my daughter. We were both like, okay, she's not sitting up, now, but maybe in a couple months. We just kept prolonging it. And every time we went to the doctor, like, I don't remember filling out anything about, is your child doing X, Y, and Z, or the doctor saying, oh, I have concerns about her development. Like, we didn't receive any of that until she was almost 3 years old. And then that's when we got referred to early steps. So for the doctors to just keep relaying stuff, like when you're asking these questions and you see like, okay, this month the mom checked, yeah, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, and every time that they have came back for almost a year and some months, you still are just saying, let's wait and see, let's wait and see. It's things like that, because early intervention is so important.
Yes.
And so those months that your child is missing out on the time they could have been receiving the speech or the PT or the OT, or trying to figure out what is going on, even though I know most doctors won't even diagnose until they're about 3 or 4 years old, it's still, we're missing out on all those crucial months to be able to put some kind of prevention in place, or even it's okay to just be on top of it. If you have some kind of inclination, like, okay, this isn't right. And so that kind of just made me a little upset, even hearing that the PA would be like, okay, let's just wait and see. And the primary care doesn't even step in until a year, later to say, oh yeah, and then the way that he didn't even have great bedside manner and, no compassion. And then even at the daycare, because I know at daycares, they're supposed to do assessments. So, at the daycare, it's like, did you see that my child wasn't checking all the boxes? You didn't come to me with these concerns, or, give me some type of information or advice on how we can work on these things at home to, try and see if we can get our child back on track. It's just little things like this that we miss, those little pieces. And it just, we fall through the loops because the care is just, it's not consistent. And I do feel like if it were, if we were Caucasian and we were at a doctor's office, that they probably would have been more prone to be like, okay, let's do this now, or if the mom's like, no, I want to get therapy started now. I don't care if they're only, 6 months, I want to do it now. That, it's like they're more prone to be like, okay, we'll do that. We can get everything in place. But with African Americans, I feel like it's a little bit harder for us to fight for the things that we want. And they kind of look at us crazy, like, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're saying. You don't know what you're, doing. And so that's why it's so important to me for us to stand up and advocate for our children, to, make sure that the doctors and the therapists or whoever that we're seeing, that they have the same type of care for our children that we have for them, and that things are being put in place that need to be in place, and we're not getting looked at like we're crazy. We're not getting talked to like we're a child and we don't understand what's going on when we have concerns, because I've gotten that too,
Me too.
So
Me too. The worst is when you have that professional who has the educational background about an autistic child or a child with special needs, but you've never parented one before.
Right.
That is completely different. So I understand you have the experience on a professional level, but when you're talking about being with a child 24/7, there's no comparison. So for you to tell me, you're telling him to open up his mouth for an exam, and I'm telling you he doesn't understand what you're saying, and you tell me that he does. He may understand what you're saying, but he doesn't understand that command to tell himself to do that for you. Yeah. So you can go back and forth with me and tell me that he understands, but he doesn't. Right. And it's like, that's not me labeling my kid. That's me parenting you. That's me parenting him and letting you know that this is not how we're going to have to handle this, because he doesn't understand. I say, he's not going to respond to that.
Yeah. And that's why it's important too, to when those doctors or the therapists are writing their reports or putting in their notes, go back and read that before you sign anything, or you looking at progress notes. Go back and read what they have wrote, because sometimes you would be surprised at the things that they have written, and you probably wouldn't even be in agreement with that, or they worded something wrong or added something in that you're like, what? When did they do this? Or because I know I went back to like my child's medical record, and I'm like, she has what? She did what? They didn't tell me. Like, they didn't tell me that she had this or whatever. We never discussed this. So, always like go back and read notes, make sure that you look at what they're writing before you sign anything. Especially,
I
when it's
agree.
being sent off into insurance and you're trying to get things approved and stuff like that. And just, to know, like, so this doctor or therapist, like, I'm the parent. I know, what is going on with my child. I'm the voice for my child. And, like, this is basically a fine line of respect and, just acknowledging my voice to be heard. So I always encourage that, and I do that. And so then on your journey to entrepreneurship, I'm sure too, like you were saying, because the job was getting stressful, it was getting, hectic, and you have to choose care for your child. And so, what made you feel like if you started your business, that it was going to be the best decision to get the care that your child needs to get, if you were versus if you were at your 8 to 5 job?
Yeah. So just literally a lot like myself, you have had the same experience with feeling like you're there, you're on FMLA, but you kind
Mm-hmm.
of still feel like your job is not secure because
Yeah.
obviously the means of the business come first. So if you
Mm-hmm.
can't be that reliable and dependent employee, it's their responsibility to get someone in there who does that. And I didn't take it personal.
Yeah.
I just knew I had to make a decision for myself. And so coming home, I was blessed enough to have a husband who stepped up and made sure, that I was going to be able to take care of our kids and he was going to maintain the house. Everybody does not have that. And I've learned on this journey, there are a lot of single mothers who have struggled because they had to try to provide for their child and they couldn't. So then they're left trying to get government resources that are very limited.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're running into the issue of, not having what you need to still provide for your child. And that's overwhelming. And so I've learned on this journey, there are so many mothers that go through what I've been through. And so I launched my business in January of this year, and it's virtually assistance. And so I'm a virtual assistant, a healthcare virtual assistant. That is my niche, healthcare. And so what I decided to do was to use my background to work for healthcare providers. Specifically, I would love to work with providers who provide care to special needs children because that is ultimately my passion and where my heart is.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole reason of doing that was so that I can have flexibility with my schedule because in a 9 to 5, 8 to 5, you don't get that. Either you show up or you don't have a job, and it's already hard enough when you have a typical child who you're like, okay, well, let me drop them off the daycare, let me drop them off to school, I'll go back and get them. But when you have a child who needs more of your time that you don't have to give,
Mm-hmm.
you have to figure out another way because the government resources that you get are not enough to care for your child. They're the bare minimum. And that's not enough, to give them everything that they need. A lot of the times, like even on my journey, I've been denied for short-term disability for my son, and it's based on what my husband makes, but we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure it out in a one income household. So we had to start figuring and looking at other alternatives of, okay, what are we going to do? So for me, I felt like God allowed all of this for me to come to the conclusion like, hey, I'm not going to bless you with anything else because I've already given you everything you need is right here in front of you. Because I can't tell you how many jobs I've tried to look for. There are not many 9 to 5s who are going to pay you for 3 days a week to work 18, 20 hours. It's just not going to happen. And the
Yeah.
part-time jobs that you get are just not enough, and then you're
Mm-hmm.
still stuck with the trying to figure out the schedule around the kids. And it's just too
Yeah.
much. It's overwhelming. So for me, I started my business to assist healthcare professionals with administrative tasks. And my vision is to scale my business so that I can hire other moms like myself and like you, Brittany, and be able to give them a full-time income with a part-time work, flexibility, work-life balance, so that
Yeah.
you can work 20 hours a week and still be able to make full income and be able to take care of your family. Be able to use the skills that you have been trained on, whether it be customer service or, whatever your background is, be able to use that
Mm-hmm.
to work for, other business owners and be able to make an income for yourself and have that flexibility for your child. So my plan is to scale my business and be able to hire other moms with special needs kids. And this all started because of this little baby
Mhm.
that God gave me. And I had no choice but to try to figure it out because what I was doing wasn't working. And God
Mhm.
put a block on me. It was like, I can't tell you how many interviews I went on, how many jobs I tried to work for, how many things I started and tried to finish, and it didn't work. It just wasn't for me or for our
Yeah.
dynamic. So it's been like this. I believe that this is where God wants me to be, and so this is my business, and my vision for it is to be a advocate in the world of special needs mothers because it's
Mhm.
hard. It's hard to be everything for those kids, and especially when you're a single mom. That's a
Mhm.
tough place to be in, and so that is definitely my vision and how I
Yeah.
got.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, I understand that so much about, you're just like, I have to, I got to figure out something how to make this work. And the jobs, like you start a job and you're just like, okay, because I've gotten so much, and maybe it's the same for you, so much in the habit of, okay, I'm used to now being able to take my child where they need to go, get the services they need and stuff. And then, okay, I got to go on somebody's clock and I got to do this and I got to do that, or they want this from me. They're demanding that. And it's like, okay, I want to be with my children, being able to give them, their needs and making sure they're developmentally meeting whatever, it is that we're working on at that time. And just like you, like I've been to so many interviews and stuff where I'm just like, I've even like went to the job, I've started the job, and then I'm just like, I I
I've
cannot.
been there.
I'm like, I can't even do it. Like all I can think about is my kids and what they're missing, or because we have had to like put therapy on hold or put it to the side so I can try and see if this job will work out for the family or not. And then it's just like I went through orientation, everything. And I'm like, okay, I cannot even come back tomorrow. So,
I
you know,
understand. I have been there.
yeah, I'm like, yeah. So, it's so amazing how our kids are just again able to like shine this light on something that's probably been there inside of us that we just didn't know, and we just needed them to give us this like fire and light to get things moving, to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And so when you are, working on your business, when you are planning your business, or even, doing like your marketing and things like that, how do you reset yourself from, okay, this is mommy mode and I'm doing, this with the kids, or I got to do this with therapy, to, okay, this is my time now to work on my business, to do what I need to do for my business? Like, how do you separate the two and make time for your business?
So I'm still learning. It is definitely a process. I think my biggest thing that helps me is journaling, really sitting down and setting my goals and being able to think about the vision that I want to attain and be
Mhm.
able to try to break that down into little tiny pieces. So, whether that is doing the podcast like today and getting the information out there, or just taking that time to really research and study something that I need to implement, joining networking groups and, going to events. So, like, really taking that time to think about, okay, what steps are going to get me towards my goals?
Mhm.
When will I do this? What time will I do this? Where will the kids be? So, having a plan, setting that plan into like your calendar to have designated time to do things that you need to do for your business, and just really taking action, because I think one of the biggest things and one of the things that I'm still growing through is understanding that it's okay to just take action and not have the answers for everything.
Mhm.
So that
Yeah.
is something I'm still learning. And so for me, that calendar is like my everything. Like I cannot function without it because
Mhm.
it helps me take small steps that I need to take towards my bigger vision. And
Yeah.
it keeps me being who I need to be for my family. And so if you don't have a calendar, for anybody listening to this, definitely get you a calendar. Sit down, write out your priorities, and then take that time and decide, okay, what does my week look like coming up? How can I implement these things? Where do I need to be for my kids? Where do I need to be for my business? Do I need to take time and sit down and research this particular topic, or how to implement this into your business is so important. And I'm learning that on this journey, that I have to take that time to reflect, and then take the time to review your week. How was last week for you? What did you get done? What did you not get done? Did this work for you? And so learning that is what is carrying me right now.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's a learning process. And even just our journey as a special needs parent is a process, because we're still always learning things every day. And I know I had wanted to ask you also, I know that we can only move forward from here, and we take the things that we receive and, build upon those, and just try to take baby steps to get to whatever our goals may be for ourselves and our kids. But I like to be able to see like where those holes and gaps are in the community with the resources around. So I can see how I can, go to these different places and present information to them, or ask them to provide more information for the community. So are there any things that you wish that you would have known, while you were going through your journey, that, you didn't have access to, or you didn't know about before, you found out your child's diagnosis, or even just along his way to going to turning 4 years old? Is there anything that you feel like you wish you would have had, more access to or known about?
Yeah, so really at the start of all of this, with Elijah going through this journey, us taking this journey with him, I think knowing that it was going to be so much care that was like needed for him, and being able to know where to go to find that information. Because when you're going through the diagnosing, and them giving him that diagnosis of autism, they give you the bare minimum of that information. So if you don't have the time to research, to dig, to get in connection with the right people, you don't know what else is out there. And so I think for me, learning that I cannot depend just on the doctors to give me what I need for him, because they can only take you so far. They start you out, but as he's growing, I need to know what resources are out there for him when he becomes a teenager. Into adulthood. What does my child's future look like? And I was watching another interview that you did, and she was talking about setting up jobs for children with special needs. What does that look like for him? I have another child, who, if something happens to me and my husband, they're left together. What resources will he have as a sibling to step up and take care of him in later on in life? What benefits does he get from that? How does he become the power of attorney, or the caregiver, or whatever that may be in the future? I think about those things, and you really don't know. Nobody can give you the answer to that. A doctor can't give you the answer for that. So it's kind of like, me now looking back, I realize that a lot of providing the care for him and giving him what he needs is on me to find those resources. And if you don't know where to look at, it's very intimidating, because outside of just that, just kind of sending you on your way to get those early steps, and leading you to the therapy, they don't do anything outside of that for you. They give you the foundation, which is awesome. I think that's important, but they're not going to be little forever. What does adulthood look like for them? And so I think that I would love to have more resources available on how to really advocate for your child from the teenage years on up. Because I think in the beginning, it's okay. They give you the foundation. I think you have to be that parent who is willing to accept what's going on and not be in denial about it. Because I think a lot of times, especially like you said, in our community, we have somewhat of that stigma of, oh, ain't nothing wrong with my baby. He gonna get there.
Right.
Not wanting to accept that diagnosis or that label, so to say, about your child. But people have to understand that it's okay. That doesn't mean that they're bad, good, not going to be anything or anything negative.
Yeah.
It just means they're different, and that's okay. We are all different,
Mhm.
and they're
Yeah.
even more different, and that's okay. Give them what they need, whatever information they're giving to you now, but also be willing to go out and research, connect with other people, join communities where you can find more information that is available to you, because there isn't a lot of information out there. There isn't a lot of people who have gone a path that are willing to either even reach back and tell you,
Mhm.
okay, this is what teenage years were for me and my child, or this is what we're dealing with now in adulthood. I have my mom has a friend who has an older brother, and he's actually in his 50s, and he's in a home and has been in a home since I think he was like 15 or 16. And it was
Mm.
because of the combative behavior that he had towards the mother. And it's like, I never even considered that being
Mhm.
something to deal with. So it's like, okay, how do we get ahead of that now? Where do I look? You
Mhm.
know, outside of ABA, where do I look to give my child the tools that he needs to be calm? Because I don't want to put my baby in a home. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine it. And so when you think about things like that, those are things that we have to consider that other parents with typical children never have to consider. And
Yeah.
even if that was an option to put them in a home at some point, if someone has a child who they end up having to put them in a home, maybe they've gotten elderly and they can't care for that child, what does that look like for that parent and that child? Like, there's no resources to give us information on how to move into that later
Mhm.
on life stages with them, and I think that's so important.
Yeah, and so I know you are trying to look at the videos and everything on the Two Moms and Some Labels, but if you get a chance, or whenever you get a chance, a good friend of mine, I had interviewed her. Her name is Star Fields, and she has a son with autism. And oh my gosh, he is like, I swear he's like 6 feet tall, and he is, is he 15, 16? But oh my gosh, he's like 6 feet tall. He's taller than me. I'm 5'7". So he's taller than
Oh
me.
my
I mean,
goodness.
he is solid. And Star and her mom, they had been, the primary caregivers because her husband was in the military. So, they've had been the primary caregivers. But I mean, her story is amazing. And, the way that she has been able to help her son with his behaviors, through ABA, and just, their parenting style is just amazing. What they have been able to do with him. So that would be, a good one for you to look at. And I can give you her contact information
Okay.
also too. And then
Yeah, I
I
would like
know,
that.
yeah. And I know, one thing I'm trying to learn how to do is to not put so much stuff on my plate and worry about the future, or things that are out of my control, or even things like I don't need to be concerned with at this moment, and try to live in, okay, this is what I need to do tomorrow, and or this is what I need to do this week, but I'm not going to jump, that far ahead to stress myself out. And so
Yeah.
I know you were talking about, you want to know about the teenage years and adulthood, and, your other son, things that are out there for him to be able to help take care of your littlest. And I can just say that, just like live in today. And I mean, he has what, 4 or 5 years of elementary school
He does.
to go through. So I mean, you have some time before he becomes a teenager. And I can tell you, those elementary years, they can bring on a lot, with the IEPs, and just advocating for him in the elementary school, at the elementary school age. So, just focusing on what you can do now, what he needs while he is, in this, primary school age group. And then maybe when you get closer to, like fifth grade, fourth grade, start thinking about, okay, what resources do I need to, get this in place for him, or start, preparing this for him, at that time. So you can collect information in the meantime and just, keep
Yeah.
everything together. But I would not, be stressing or worrying about when he's a teenager and stuff. But of course, with the behaviors and stuff, you definitely, if he had any type of, behavioral concerns, with being aggressive or anything like that, of course, trying to find resources about, to help with that is definitely, something that you will want to do. So they say, start young and, try to, put things in place to help with that in the future.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So I'm definitely not stressing about it, but
yeah.
it is a reality that I feel like,
Yeah.
so far I've learned really to just be patient and to
Mm-hmm.
take it one day at a time, because in the
Yeah.
beginning I thought about, oh my God, what is it going to be like when he's 4 and 5? And now we're here,
Yeah.
you know? And so I've learned that it will all pan out to work out together.
Right.
But I do think it's important to at least have those resources available to
Mm-hmm.
families so they
Yeah.
can at least, like you said, start trying to pre-plan for some of that. Because even though he's 4, it's tough. It's
Yeah.
tough now just getting through potty training. So that's that's a
Right.
whole nother
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
but I think it is important still to not really to be overwhelmed or stressed about it, but
Yeah.
have those resources available, because
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking and there aren't very many.
Yeah. And then, you can Google yourself to death and all kinds
Yes,
of things pop up and you don't know
yes.
what's true, false, right, wrong. So, I say, join Facebook groups. There's a lot of local Facebook groups, especially ones for kids with autism. Um, I also did an interview with a lady named Anna, and she is an affiliate for Bright Feet, which is a special needs resource directory. And, they're bringing it here to Northeast Florida to provide, a magazine that has different resources in it to help you along your journey, so that you don't have to be searching all over the internet and asking this person and asking that person. It can all be, in one place. And so definitely look for that to come out in October. And then
Okay.
she's always open to talk about anything because her kids, they have autism too. So she's always like an open book and available to talk about anything, if you have questions about just stuff along your journey.
Okay.
And I know, even though, we have kids with different diagnoses, disabilities, we all just have to come together as one and put our brains together and put resources together so that we're helping one another. And if we could, make the community stronger and not feel like everybody's just so separated and,
Yeah.
we just, it's hard to find things because everybody's just we get so tied up in trying to figure out everything for our kids and our families and what have you. So, if we could just try to make it a little less stressful for one another by just, coming to a common place and bringing resources together, our experiences that we went through to help the next person along their journey so they don't have to, go through such a struggle or, avoid certain situations, or even doctors that may have had experiences that weren't so great with. That's the goal. And,
Yeah.
that's my goal here. And a lot of the people that I interview, I feel like, that's their goal. They're trying to bring the community together and just provide resources for everybody in this community. Because we will be around here running like a chicken with our head cut off, trying to figure out everything and make things work
That's very true.
for our kids. So, if we make things less stressful as possible, that's always the best route to go.
Yeah.
So, um, I definitely want you to also tell our viewers, um, because we have some medical professionals also. Tomorrow or Thursday, I'm going to be interviewing somebody at Jacksonville Neuroclinical Psychology Group. So, definitely put your information out there. Let them know how they can contact you if they're interested in your healthcare services.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can reach me from my website. My contact information is on there. My website is www.myvaelite.com. Also, you can find me on Instagram at MyVaElite. And so those would be my best ways to reach me. Or you can email me. My email is myvaelite@gmail.com. So any of those would be a great way to contact me.
Nice. So, hopefully we can get this business moving forward. We're going to get it moving, and you're going to be hiring, a whole bunch of moms like
Yes.
us, giving them
Yes.
opportunities to have, flexibility and freedom, with their family and themselves. So, I'm looking forward to seeing your business flourish and
Thank
doing
you.
great things for the community and bringing opportunities. And I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing your journey, talking about, your story. I'm hoping that, more of our community will want to listen in and just reach out to get the resources that are available out here. And just bring their kids out and know that there's a community to help, and you don't have to be alone in the journey. I just want to help and provide resources, because I know how hard it can be, and like you said, especially for single mothers. So we got a lot of work to do, but
Yes.
we are going to make it through, just like we have done on this journey so far. And I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. You definitely are doing just that. You are connecting the community, being an advocate and a resource for us moms and families who have these special babies that are such a blessing. And you just keep up the good work because you are doing it.
Thank you. Thank you
You're
so much.
welcome.
I